I'm excited to be here with 6 a.m. Coffee with Shanda. Today's Coffee with Shanda is inspired by a woman who messaged me, and she was sharing with me her story. And her story is like, it's so typical, like this female entrepreneur who has got this drive to make a difference in the world, yet she's got 5 kids. She's helping her father doing her father's book. So she's helping her father in his business. She's got a product that she sells that is a low price point, and like putting logos on pens and paper and anything that you can put a company logo on. And she's driving her kids to her sports games and things like that. And basically she has no money to be able to hire anybody. Does this story sound familiar as a typical entrepreneur? I hope so. And I hope that anybody who's watching right now, who's a client of mine, who maybe started from a place of struggling, no idea how you're going to make it, a little frustrated, and something that the woman actually messaged in on our HeartCore Business inbox. She said, I do have some time during the day to work. And she goes, but I don't know what to work on. Like, I don't know what to prioritize to be productive. And so I want to talk about that, but I do want to take a moment and say, for my clients who are watching right now, I'm going to ask you to make a difference right now. I'm going to ask you to stand up and stand for every entrepreneur who is in this position where you have a drive, you want to make a difference, but you really don't know what do you focus on. I mean, it's a really frustrating place. So can you just take a moment and comment in the comment section, what do you think they should focus on? What do you think someone should focus on if they're sitting in a position where they have no money and they have very little time and they can't figure out what to prioritize? So as my clients are going ahead and doing that, hopefully they're going to message what I'm about to say, and that is that first and foremost, if you have nobody to sell to, you have no business. If you have nobody to sell to, you have no business. One of the biggest challenges that people have is that they create these products, these programs, they have ideas, they might even have have a very clear business plan on how to get there. But creating more products will not make you more money. And having more ideas and journaling so that you feel better and feel more clear does not mean that you're going to make money or get ahead. So it's really important that Alex Arriaga, focus on the vision. For sure, focus on the vision. But the thing is that if you don't have anybody to sell to, like Alex, you had, I can't remember what it was, a $60,000 or $70,000 day. You know what I mean? With our audience, right? And so as you build your own audience, what does that look like, right? You do seminars all around the world and have been forever. And so what's the common denominator connected with making money? People. You need to have somebody to be able to sell to, right? You have to have somebody to be able to serve. So there's one part you have to have somebody to be able to sell to, and that sounds very transactional. However, to grow a business, you need to serve, which means that people need to be so happy working with you that they get over all their negative limiting beliefs to be able to stay with you long term. You're never going to make everybody happy, but you can do such a good job that you outperform the marketplace. You outperform your competitors. So coming down to the woman who asked me, what do I focus on? So first and foremost, you actually focus on building an email list. My clients know this. They wouldn't be making money without it, right? Like I mean, there's definitely speaking, which is great, but that's connected with an audience too. And if you understand how to get up on a stage and speak and exactly, first of all, I don't actually recommend speaking until you've worked with enough people that you actually know what your product is, your message is, and you've tested it on people. I don't recommend that you speak until you do that. I love speaking. I think it's a phenomenal piece of growing a business, but I do not recommend it. And I stand strong on the aspect that I know there's a lot of people, there's even great friends of mine who recommend it. I do not recommend speaking first because you're testing on an audience and you're playing a high risk game, and unless you have some sort of charisma, which a lot of these people who teach speaking do, they have a charisma about them. Like they could be bad and still be good, right? And so you need to stop and just say, first practice with building your own audience. So So the woman who messaged in, I recommend that you build an email list first. There's a link on my page. You can go to helpmeshanda.com. You can message me. That link is in the description. Just message me, and we can talk about what that looks like for you. But saying that, first step, because we're talking about just what do you prioritize. First step, build an email list. Then work on what is the product that you deliver to that email list. So for my clients that are watching, I don't want to bore you. Let me just take this to another level because you already know this piece, right? When you're looking to make offers, you need to look for using words that your clients actually say. So we have like a suggestion box, and people send me messages through the suggestion box, or people send me messages to our inbox, whether it's on Instagram or it's on Facebook Live, right? They send messages. And when you guys send me messages, what I do is I read the words that you say. And then I use those words in my email marketing, my landing pages, my sales pages. I use them everywhere. I use them in my coffees with Shanda. I use them everywhere. I mean, have you ever had like a moment where somebody's like, oh my God, you totally get me? Right? Have you ever had somebody tell you that where they're like, I just love you, you so get me? If you haven't, then you need to listen in. You need to listen in more. If you have, what that means is that you're a good listener. If you want to have a good marriage, you want to have a good relationship with your fitness, you want to have a good relationship with your business, listen in on what people are saying. Listen in on what you're saying, right? So here's a great practice for you today. Today, listen to what you complain about. Like in your head, like let's make it really personal, right? In your head as you go through the day, like think about, what do you complain about? So I had a moment like this morning. I got up at 4 a.m. and I meditated, and then I prayed for a group of people that I'm in a prayer circle with. And then I sat there and I was thinking, you know, there's a thing that my husband does that irritates me. I'm even embarrassed to say that. It just sounds horrible. But there's a thing that he does that irritates me. And I was laying in bed and I was thinking, first I was thinking, what if he was more like that? And then I stopped and I was like, well, what if I was okay with him being just that? And then I was like, well, how would my life change, or how would my feelings change if I actually just accepted that about my husband? And the reason why I'm sharing this with you, I could go deeper into this, but I had a real amazing, powerful, profound moment with my thoughts this morning where I was gaining my power back, right? You gain your power back when you're not frustrated. You gain your power back when you're not complaining. However, to market to yourself or market to your audience, you need to actually pay attention to what are you complaining about and what are they complaining about. And the game of life is unity. It's actually not, how do I convince that person to not believe that? How do I convince that person to dream bigger, to play bigger? I mean, if I could just make everybody have a stronger drive and hustle and commit, I mean, I know that their dreams would come true, but people don't hustle and they don't commit. They say they're committed. They say they're committed all the time. Shanda, I'll do whatever it takes. I'm like, great. Here, invest this. I can't. I have no money. You already stopped. Do you think I have money every time I have a dream or a vision that I'm going after? No, I shouldn't say never. I almost never have enough money to pay for everything going on, right? And I make millions of dollars a year. I say that humbly because I remember making like $1,000 a month, right? So I share this with you because what I want you to hear is the freaking solution is in solving the problem. But I can't make people commit unless I can make them go through my leadership program. And then half the time they bitch and complain about the fact that it's too much time. It's too much of a time commitment. I'm like, Jesus, like, how do you actually expect to get ahead if you keep stopping at the problem? Right? Like, how's it going to ever happen? So let's backtrack. Let's get off the rant for a second. Pay attention to what you're complaining about inside your head, whether it's with your spouse, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your business coach, your spiritual coach, your fitness instructor, your kids, whatever it is you're complaining about, you have lost your power in that moment. And in that moment, you have an ability to gain your power back by actually marketing to yourself, which means that, how do I solve this problem? Right? How do I solve this problem? That's all growing a business is. So if you can get the first priority number one is your inner leadership, which is, how do you do that with yourself? I mean, you can't keep talking yourself off the ledge, meaning that you can't positive talk yourself out or into success for very long because your willpower is not consistent. In other words, sometimes you won't get enough sleep and then you'll wake up and you have a bad day. Or sometimes something like someone in your family is dying. And at the same time as they're dying, you like the house roof gets a leak. And then, you get what I'm saying? Like, it's a downward spiral of all these things that kind of hit you at one time. And this is why your willpower is inconsistent, right? So you don't want to positive think yourself forever into or out of anything. What you want to do is develop an inner marketing system for yourself so that you can market yourself into solutions that either you provide for yourself, or if you don't know how to provide for yourself, that you can actually talk yourself into buying something. I did say that. Because if you resist being a buyer, you can't sell. If you resist being a buyer, you can't sell. So the flip of even past the resistance is a justification why you can't buy. And money is not a justification, because you can do what it takes to make the money. So for instance, if I told you that it took 90 days to build an email list and that you could make an offer on the fourth month or 91 days, so you could make an offer. And if your inner leadership was strong enough, you were vulnerable, you were certain, you were confident, you didn't feel sleazy when you made an offer, you weren't dominating or convincing, that you could just honestly make an offer and that you could make $10,000 on day 91. $10,000. Would you do what it took today to figure out how to pay for it? I would hope so, because you could not only rinse and repeat what you learned on day 91 to make that offer, to make $100,000. Right? Because if you can make that in one day, imagine if you did that 10 days in a row, right? Imagine if you did that 10 days in a row. What happens is people don't commit, and then they don't know how to put the hustle with the commitment. In fact, tomorrow, I'm going to have Jessica on with me tomorrow, and she's going to show you how she actually did that in one day from her inner leadership and the email list that she built. So I share this with you because, first of all, if you don't handle marketing your internal system, meaning that you've got to get yourself to show up, right? If you don't get yourself to show up, you're in trouble. But that's a good thing for me to say. How do you do it? Market to yourself. Market to yourself. Marketing is not a bad word. It's called power, right? Marketing can create a movement. And that's what I want. I want you to create a movement in your own life, and I want you to create a movement in your business, in your finances. I want you to never, ever, ever, ever think twice about buying anything in life. I don't want anything to be inside of your inside or outside of your realm of possibility and be like, I can't get that. I want you to be like, I know how to hustle, and I know how to commit, and I know how to make money. Making money is not the hard thing. What is hard is your inner system. I still have people. There's a sister crew that works with me. They're marketing mastery. They should have a $3 million business right now. And I've been telling them to do my leadership program. Even before I owned the leadership program, I've been telling them to do the leadership program for a year now. And they say they don't have enough time. But yet they just flew into San Diego to go to a mastermind, to work with the same person. I know that might be confusing, but my point is that what are you resisting? What are you really resisting? Because it's not about your kids. It's not about money. It's not about time. It's not about any of that. I know that I prayed really hard for years to find the way to make money. But yet I also remember sitting in a Starbucks when my coach walked out the door and told me I was impossible because I never did what she coached me to do on a daily basis. I never did it. But yet inside me, I thought I worked so hard and that I was so committed. But at the end of the day, I was so afraid. I was so afraid to, like, if you told me that I had to walk door to door like my grandmother did to sell encyclopedias to make money, I wouldn't have done it because I was afraid of walking door to door. I was afraid of looking good. I was afraid of someone, like, I was afraid of not being good enough because I walked door to door, not looking strong enough, fear of rejection. What would I say to this person? What if they say no to me? I feel like an idiot. I'm not confident enough. I don't know what to say. I mean, that was just a pattern that revolved around in my head in everything I did. Even when I looked at beautiful men, I couldn't date beautiful men because I never felt good enough. I mean, the story goes deep, and I know yours does too. And the way that I started moving out of it is I started marketing to my inner leadership. And I started saying, what am I complaining about? You know, you're not a victim to a spouse. If you're fighting with a spouse on a regular basis, you need to stop blaming the spouse. You need to stop and go, unless you're being physically abused, in that case, I would recommend you leave. In any other case, I would stop and say, what if that idea or that fight is coming from you? What if that idea or that fight is actually coming from you? Pay attention to what you're complaining about. And when you're complaining about it, what are the solutions? So even in this moment, I can hear my son in the other room with my husband, and they're being really loud. And internally, I'm like, okay, I only ask you to watch them for 20 minutes, Monday through Friday, while I do Coffee with Shanda. Why is it okay that he's screaming right now and distracting me? So this is a real moment right now. I'm being totally transparent. I'm a little irritated. And then inside I go, so it's not about not getting irritated. You're not a master. You're human when you have emotional triggers. It's about how do those emotional triggers not take you down a path that have me screaming at my husband when I get off Coffee with Shanda, or have me giving him the cold shoulder. Like, you know, right? You know when you do this. And so I can happily tell you I don't do that to my husband. I don't do that to him. What I do is I go inside and I'm like, okay, I get to address the conversation with no blame, no guilt. But it's like, what could I do inside? Well, I could hire a nanny to come take him for a walk in the morning. I could change Coffee with Shanda to another time. I could take Coffee with Shanda out into another location. I mean, there's solutions to it. But then what happens is we say, I don't want to. Why should I go to another location? Well, like, I don't want to get up that early. That's all inner leadership stuff. And then what it becomes is you against the world. And as you grow a team of people that work for you, that dynamic gets much more confusing. So my point is you got to be able to do it with your spouse or someone you love. You got to create team, so that you can create team on a larger scale. Otherwise, you will only work with people who you can control. And when you only work with people you can control, you end up slowing the growth of anything you could ever accomplish. So I'm going to stop there on 6 a.m. Coffee with Shanda. I'll be here tomorrow, Tuesday at 6 a.m. with Jessica, where we're actually going to talk about how did she create that 10K plus in a few hours from her email list through vulnerability. All right, you guys, I'll talk to you soon. Have a great day. Bye.